My brother clapped when Mom slapped me in front of 55 people. Dad just sat back, smirked, and said, "Serves you right." But what they didn't know. That night, I called 3 numbers. When my mother slapped me in the face in front of 55 people and my brother started applauding, I realized that my life had just split in two. But the worst part was not that she hit me. The worst part was that everyone around me knew the truth and I didn't. It all started when Aunt Melissa drank too much at her own wedding. "Caitlin, why are you so sour?" The bride in her fluffy white dress came up to me, staggering a little from the champagne. I stood by the cake table in my only decent dress, a navy blue one I bought on sale a year ago. Wealthy relatives and friends were celebrating around me, and I was counting in my head how much this wedding had cost. At least $10,000. With that money, I could have finished college. "It's okay, Aunt, I'm just a little tired of organizing," I forced a smile. For the past 2 months, I've been helping organize this wedding for free, delivering invitations, making contacts with caterers, even helping to choose flowers. My mom said it was my contribution to the family celebration instead of a gift. Melissa laughed and hugged me. She smelled of expensive perfume and alcohol. "You were so good to help with the preparations. You know, I even told Deborah that I should have given you money for your work, especially after she took your college savings." Time seemed to stand still. The sounds of the wedding, the laughter, the music, the clinking of glasses suddenly became muffled, as if I were underwater. Melissa realized she had said too much and covered her mouth with her hand. Her eyes widened in horror. "Oh, Caitlin, I thought you knew." The blood drained from my face. College savings. $2,000 that I had saved for 2 years, working 4 hours a day after school at Maggie's Cafe. Money that was in my bank account, which my mom had access to just in case. "What do you mean?" My voice was trembling. "Caitlin, honey, maybe we should talk about this later." Melissa was looking around nervously. "No!" I grabbed her arm. "Just tell me, did Mom take my money?" The guests nearby began to turn toward us, sensing the tension in my voice. The music was still playing, but our conversation was attracting attention. "She said it was temporary," Melissa whispered, looking around, "that she'd give it back by September when you got in, that there were financial problems in the family and—" I felt nausea rising in my throat. Financial problems? Where is she now? I looked around the room for a familiar figure. Not at my wedding, but I saw my mom at the bar. Deborah Ellis looked gorgeous in her new blue dress that must have cost at least $300. I knew the prices because I could never afford one myself. She was laughing with my dad Ray and my older brother Jason, holding a glass of expensive wine in her hand, wine for $50 a bottle, bought with my money. I moved toward her, feeling my heart pounding so loudly that it seemed like everyone around me could hear it. Melissa helplessly reached for me, trying to stop me. "Mom!" I walked up to the bar and my family turned to me. Deborah smiled that fake smile she always wore in public. Wide, white-toothed, perfect. "Caitlin, darling, are you finally having fun? You've been looking a little down all evening. We need to talk," I tried to keep my voice steady. "But we're at a wedding," she raised her glass. "Whatever it is, it can wait until tomorrow." Papa Ray nodded in agreement. "That's right. It's Melissa's day, and we don't want to ruin it." Jason, my 24-year-old brother, smiled. "Caitlin always comes up with something at the worst possible time. Remember when she threw a tantrum at Dad's birthday party 2 years ago?" "I didn't throw that tantrum. I just cried when I found out that the money I gave my dad for a present, he spent on alcohol for his friends." "Where is my college money?" I decided not to beat around the bush. The smile on my mom's face faltered for a moment, but quickly returned to its place. "What are you talking about?" "The $2,000 I've been saving for 2 years. Aunt Melissa said you took it." Groups of curious guests began to form around us. I could see them tilting their heads, trying to hear the conversation. "Caitlin, stop making a scene." My mother's voice became cold. "We'll talk about this at home." "No!" I felt my voice rise. "I want to know now. This money is my only opportunity to study. Where is it?" Dad put his glass down on the counter and interjected. "Caitlin, don't raise your voice to your mother." "I'm not raising my voice. I'm asking questions." I turned to him. "Why didn't anyone tell me my money was missing?" Jason laughed. "Your money?" "Caitlin, you live in our house, you eat our food, you use our Wi-Fi. How could you have your money?" These words hit me like a slap in the face. My own brother, with whom I used to play in the yard together, building pillow houses, watching cartoons. I earned that money, my voice was shrill, for 2 years, 4 hours every day after school. And where did you earn it? Deborah moved closer to me. At the cafe I got you through my connections, driving the car we bought you, wearing the clothes we bought you. The guests around us no longer hid their interest. The conversation stopped, the music was still playing, but everyone was looking at us. 55 pairs of eyes riveted on the family drama. Okay, I said, feeling my hands shaking with anger. If so, then explain to me what my money went for. Deborah looked around, noticing all the attention, and her face turned red. Do you really want to discuss this here, in front of all these people? Yes, I do, because at home you'll find 1,000 excuses. Okay, Mom put the glass on the counter with such force that the wine splashed. If you want to know the truth in front of people, here it is. Yes, I took that money. It went to pay the bills that you helped create by living in our house. It was my money! I screamed now, forgetting about the people around me. So what? Deborah cut me off. Do you think it costs nothing to keep you alive? Food, clothes, a roof over your head, the electricity bill you burn in your room? You never said I had to pay for it. We didn't have to. Normal kids understand that without words. Dad intervened again. Deborah is right. You are ungrateful, Caitlin. We've raised you, fed you, clothed you, and now you're throwing a tantrum over some money. Some money? I couldn't believe my ears. Jason laughed again, and his laugh was cruel. Education? With your grades? Caitlin, be realistic. You barely graduated high school with a C. My grades are good enough for college. For some backwater college, maybe. Mom joined Jason. But why waste money on something that won't lead anywhere? These words struck me in the heart. My grades weren't really great, but I did my best. I worked and studied at the same time, trying to keep a balance. You are cruel, I whispered. And you are an ungrateful, selfish person, my mother replied. Dad and I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on you over the years, and you are making a scene over 2,000. What tens of thousands? For food and clothes? That's your duty as parents. Our duty? Deborah raised an eyebrow. It's time you learned to be responsible. The room went completely silent. Even the music had stopped. 55 people were looking at us, waiting for us to continue. I could see a mixture of curiosity, pity, and condemnation in their eyes. I want my money back, I said through clenched teeth. What money? Deborah threw up her hands. I don't remember any of your money. You're lying. What am I doing? You're lying to my face. You stole my money and you're lying to me. And then it happened. My mom's hand came up and came down hard on my left cheek. The sound of the slap thundered through the room, drowning out even the music. My ears rang and I tasted the metallic taste of blood in my mouth. I touched my cheek, not believing it had happened. Not at home, not alone, but here, in front of all these people, and then I heard applause. Jason was the first to applaud, smiling broadly as if he had just seen a particularly good performance. Bravo, he laughed. Finally, someone put the princess in her place. Dad supported him, clapping his hands. That's right, Debo. It's time she learned some respect. Several other guests also applauded, apparently believing that I deserved to be punished for disrespecting my elders. Some even whistled in approval. I stood in the middle of the wedding hall, my cheeks burning and my eyes full of tears, looking at the people rejoicing in my humiliation, at my family, laughing at my pain. That's what you should do, my dad said, smiling. You can't talk to your mother like that in public. Melissa ran up to me and tried to hug me. Caitlin, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. But I pulled away from her. She knew too. I turned and ran for the exit, leaving behind me the laughter, applause, and voices of the guests who were already discussing what had just happened. Someone was shouting something about young people without education. Someone said that I did the right thing. It was cool outside, and the evening wind burned my hot cheek. I sat down on a bench outside the restaurant and cried not from physical pain, but from the realization of how deeply I was despised by my own family. $2,000, my dreams of studying, my hopes for a better life, all stolen and destroyed in one conversation. And the worst part was that even Aunt Melissa knew about it. How many other people knew? How many more years would I be considered a stupid girl who didn't realize what was happening to her? I pulled out my phone and looked at the time. 11:30 on a Friday night. I'm 22 years old and my life has just been split in half right in front of 55 people. And tomorrow I have to go home to these people and pretend that nothing happened. I sat on that bench for 2 hours until I was so cold that my teeth started chattering. The skin on my cheek was still burning, and I knew that tomorrow there would be a bruise. Great. Another way to explain to people what happened. The phone shook in my hands as I dialed the first number. Hello? Hannah's sleepy voice came after the fifth ring. Hannah, it's me. I'm sorry to call you so late. Kate? What's wrong? Are you crying? Hannah Wright was my best friend since high school. We worked at Maggie's Cafe together, dreamed of college together, complained about our hard lives together. The difference was that her parents supported her. My mom hit me, at the wedding, in front of all the people. What? Kate, where are you now? I'm sitting outside the Golden Crown restaurant. Hannah, I can't go home. Not tonight. Of course. You have to come to my place. Mom's on the night shift and Dad's on a flight. We'll be alone. I ordered a taxi, and 20 minutes later I was standing on the doorstep of the Wrights' small house. Hannah met me in her pajamas and slippers with a cup of hot tea in her hands. Oh my God, Kate, she touched my face. That's going to bruise. We sat down in the kitchen and I told her everything about Aunt Melissa's speech, the stolen money, the slap and the applause. Hannah listened, occasionally gasping and shaking her head. $2,000, she repeated when I finished. Kate, that's a crime. She had no right to take your money without permission. But technically, the account was joint. Mom had access to it. It doesn't matter. The money was yours. You earned it. Hannah took my phone. Call the police. The police? I winced. Hannah, this is my family, but what family? The family that stole your money and hit you in public? Kate, we have to file a report, if only to leave a mark. I knew she was right, but my heart was pounding with fear. Reporting my own mother to the police seemed impossible. But what else could I do? The second call was the hardest of my life. Service 911, what's up? I want to report a theft. My voice was barely audible. Were you robbed? Are you safe? Yes, I'm safe. The thing is that my mom took money from my bank account without authorization. The operator connected me to a police officer to whom I was to give a statement. Officer Johnson spoke calmly and professionally, explaining that cases between family members are treated differently, but if there is documentary evidence, bank statements, testimony, then a report can be filed. Prepare all the documents that confirm that the money was yours, he said. Bank statements, salary documents, any messages or correspondence with your mother about the money. Come to the branch tomorrow morning. When I hung up the phone, my hands were still shaking. Hannah put her arm around my shoulders. Good job. I don't know, I whispered. What if they hate me even more? Kate, it can't get any worse than this. After what happened today, how could it get any worse? I glanced at the clock on the wall. It was 2 a.m. In a few hours, the sun would rise and I would have to face the consequences of my decision. But first, there was one more call I had to make. Hannah, can I call someone else? Of course. Who? Uncle Mark. Mark Dennison wasn't my real uncle, at least I didn't think he was. He was an old family friend who for some reason always took special care of me. He gave me the best gifts on my birthdays, helped me with my math homework when I was in school, even offered to pay for an algebra tutor in my last year of high school. My mom always reacted strangely to his attention to me. When he brought me gifts, she would say things like, Mark, you're too good to her, or you shouldn't spoil her like that. I thought she just didn't want me to get used to expensive things. Mark always worked at a construction site, but somehow he always had money for my needs. When I needed boots for the winter, he bought them. When the school organized a trip, and my parents said they couldn't afford it, Mark paid for it. I never understood why, I just took it for granted. The phone rang for a long time, and I was about to hang up when I heard a sleepy voice. Hello? Uncle Mark? It's Caitlin. I'm sorry to call you so late. Caitlin? His voice immediately became wary. Uncle Mark, I don't know who else to talk to. Where are you now? Are you safe? Yeah, I'm at Hannah's, but I can't go home. Today at Aunt Melissa's wedding. My voice broke and I started crying again. Tell me everything in order. I told him about the stolen money, the fight, the slap. She hit you? In public? His voice became firm. Caitlin, this is unacceptable. Uncle Mark, I don't understand. Tears started to flow down his cheeks again. Why do I always feel like I'm not welcome in this house? What am I doing wrong? There was a long silence on the other end of the line, so long that I wondered if the connection had been lost. Uncle Mark, are you there? I'm here, honey, it's just. He sighed heavily. Caitlin, there are things you need to know. Things I should have told you a long time ago, but. What things? Not over the phone. I'm coming over now. Give me the address. But it's 2 in the morning. It doesn't matter. Give me Hannah's address. 40 minutes later, Mark's old red truck pulled into the driveway. I saw it through the window and went outside. Mark looked like he hadn't slept in days. Gray stubble, tired eyes, wrinkled t-shirt. Uncle Mark, you look terrible. You look even worse. He gently touched my face. That bruise, Caitlin. Let's get in the car. We need to talk. We got into the truck and Mark stared straight ahead for a long time, as if searching for words. Start at the beginning, I said. What do you mean? Caitlin, Deborah is not your birth mother. I didn't understand. The words seemed to hang in the air, not reaching my understanding. What? Deborah Ellis is not your biological mother. Your real mother's name was Sarah Dennison, and she was my sister. The world around me began to spin. I gripped the doorknob, trying to find my footing. This can't be true. Your real dad was Michael Barton. He was a good guy, an electrician. He and Sarah got married when they were 20. You were born 2 years later. But I look like Ray? No, honey. You look like Sarah. You look like my sister. When you smile, I see her. When you're angry, I see her too. I stared at him, trying to comprehend what I was hearing. It explained so much. Why I had never felt close to Deborah, why Jason was always the favorite, why I was put in the corner for the slightest offense. What happened to them? To my real parents? Mark closed his eyes and I saw a tear slide down his cheek. A car accident. You were 2 years old. A drunk driver hit their car on the highway. They died instantly. And me? You were at home with the nanny. Sarah and Michael were on their way to a date. The first one in a long time after you were born. I cried, not out of grief for people I didn't remember, but because I realized my whole life had been a lie. Why did Deborah take me? Officially, out of the goodness of her heart. She was married to Ray. They had a stable income, a normal house. I was working 2 jobs at the time, living in a small apartment. The Child Welfare Services decided that you would be better off with them. And unofficially? Mark was silent for a long time, then said, unofficially, because of the money, your parents left you an insurance policy, $100,000, plus monthly payments from the state for an orphan under 21. Deborah became your guardian and gained control over all this money. $100,000? I stopped crying in shock. Plus $1,200 a month for 21 years. In total, more than $250,000. I felt the blood rush to my head with anger. And she took all this? Officially, she spent it on your maintenance. Unofficially, look how they live and look how you live. It explained their house, their cars, Deborah's expensive clothes. It explained why I always wore secondhand clothes, why I had to work for every dollar. Uncle Mark, why didn't you tell me this before? I tried many times, but Deborah threatened to stop me from seeing you, and I couldn't lose the only thing I had left of Sarah. Is that why you always helped me? Giving me gifts? You're my niece, the only family I have. I looked at this man, the only person who really loved me all these years, and I felt something broken inside me begin to heal. What do I do now? Now you know the truth. And now you can choose. Mark took my hand. Caitlin, my invitation still stands. You can live with me and Susan. We have a spare room, and you've always been like a daughter to us. Ray, they won't leave me alone. They will if you want them to. You're 22. You're an adult. They have no power over you. I looked at the clock in the car. It was 4 in the morning. In a few hours, my old life will finally end, and my new life will begin. Uncle Mark? Yes? Tell me about my mom, about my real mom. And he told me until dawn about Sarah Dennison, a girl who loved to read, dreamed of becoming a teacher, baked the best cupcakes in the neighborhood, and sang me lullabies that I didn't remember, but that maybe somewhere deep in my heart I still heard. Mark and Susan's house was the opposite of what I was used to. It was small but cozy, with yellow walls in the kitchen and photos everywhere on the fridge, on the shelves, on the walls. Real photos of people who smiled not for the camera, but out of genuine happiness. Caitlin! Susan hugged me as tightly as if we hadn't seen each other in years, although we had last met a month ago at a barbecue in the yard. Mark told me everything. How are you feeling? I didn't know how to answer. How must you feel when you find out that your whole life has been a lie? Confused, I said honestly. Susan smiled. She was 45 and worked as a nurse at a local hospital. She had no children of her own, but she had always treated me like a niece. Now I understood why. It's okay, come, I'll show you your room. They took me to the second floor to a small room with a window overlooking the garden. The walls were painted light blue, and there was a simple bed, a desk, and a wardrobe. It's not much, Mark said, but it's yours. The word yours sounded strange. At Deborah's house, I never felt like anything really belonged to me. Thank you, I whispered. You rest for now. And in the evening, if you want, we'll show you what we've been saving all these years. I slept until 2 in the afternoon, the first time in months that I woke up not to an alarm clock but to the fact that I had slept. I smelled coffee and fried bacon downstairs. Good morning, sunshine, Susan smiled as I walked down to the kitchen. How did you sleep? Surprisingly well. I sat down at the table, where there was already a plate of scrambled eggs and toast. Where's Uncle Mark? At work, but he said he'd be home early today. Susan poured me a cup of coffee. Caitlin, have you thought about what you're going to do next? I have to go to the police today to report Deborah. That's right. And then what? I stirred my coffee, trying to collect my thoughts. It all happened so fast. Yesterday I thought I knew who I was. And now? And now I don't even know my real name. Susan sat down across from me. Your real name is Caitlin Sarah Barton. Sarah is after my mom's sister, my late sister-in-law. Deborah changed your last name to Ellis after you were adopted, but she kept your first name. Caitlin Sarah Barton, I repeated. It sounds different. It sounds like your real name. After breakfast, I drove to the police station. Officer Johnson was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a tired face. He listened patiently to my story, reviewed the bank statements I had printed out that morning. It's a complicated case, he said when I was done. Technically, your mother had legal access to the account, but if she took the money without your consent and knew you were saving it for a specific purpose, she knew. I told her many times about the college. Then there are grounds for an investigation. We'll send a request to the bank, talk to your mother, but keep in mind that this could take months. When I got home, to Mark's house, I was still getting used to thinking of it as home. He was already there, looking for something in a large cardboard box. How are things going with the police? He asked. They've started an investigation. I sat down next to him. What is this box? Mark smiled sadly. Your parents' things, what I was able to save after the accident. He opened the box and I saw a bunch of photos, letters, small personal items. Mark took the first photo and handed it to me. It's your parents at the high school graduation. I looked at the young people smiling at the camera. The man was tall, dark-haired, with kind eyes. The woman was short, with brown hair and a smile that I recognized when I looked in the mirror. I really look like her, I whispered, especially the eyes. Mark took another photo. And this is you with them when you were a year and a half old. It was a picture of a little girl with curly hair sitting on a woman's lap, and a man was standing behind her, hugging them both. All three of them were smiling. We look happy, I said. You were happy. Sarah loved you so much. She talked about you all the time. The first time you said mommy, the first time you took your first steps, the way you loved to be read stories. Mark showed me photo after photo of you, my parents at a wedding, my mom is pregnant, I am in a baby carriage, my first birthday, all this life that I didn't remember but which was mine. And this, Mark pulled a paper out of the box, is your real birth certificate. I took the document with trembling hands. Caitlin Sarah Barton, born on March 18th, 2002. Not on March 15th, as I'd thought all my life. Deborah even changed my date of birth. By 3 days, I don't know why, perhaps just to cut you off even more from the real past. I could feel the anger growing with each new detail. She didn't just steal money, she stole a person. She stole my memories. She stole my very life. Mark, Susan said as she came into the room, show her the letter. What letter? Your mother wrote this for you when she found out she was pregnant. She was going to give it to you on your 18th birthday. I took the envelope. It read, for my daughter Caitlin on her 18th birthday. The handwriting was neat, feminine. Can I can I read this in private? Of course. We'll be downstairs. After they left, I carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a piece of paper written in the same neat hand. My dear Caitlin, if you are reading this, it means that you are already 18 and a grown woman. I am writing this letter when you are not even a year old yet, but I want you to know how much I love you. You are the best thing that happened in my life. Every day with you is a gift. When you smile, the whole world becomes a better place. When you cry, my heart breaks. I hope that by the time you turn 18, your dad and I will have taught you to be strong, kind, and independent. I hope that you know your value and never let anyone humiliate you. Remember, you are worthy of love. You are worthy of respect. You are worthy of all your dreams. I will always love you, no matter where I am. Your mom, Sarah. I cried when I read those words. I cried for a woman I didn't remember, but who loved me more than Deborah ever did. I cried for the life that could have been. I cried for the 20 years I had spent with the wrong people. But along with the tears came something else, relief. I finally understood why I had never felt at home with Deborah and Ray, why I always knew something was wrong, why Jason had always been the favorite and I was the odd one out. Because I was indeed an extra in that house. My real home was here, with people who loved me, not for my money. Caitlin? Mark knocked. Can I come in? Yes. He sat down next to me on the bed. How are you? It hurts, I said honestly. But, right. For the first time in years, something feels right. Caitlin, I have to tell you something. It's about the inheritance. Susan already told me. Deborah took it all. Not all of it, Mark smiled. Your parents left you more than just the insurance. They bought a small house as an investment when you were born. They rented it out. Deborah didn't know about it because it was in my name as trustee. I looked at it, not understanding. What does that mean? It means you have a house. It's small, it needs repairs, but it's yours. Plus the money from the lease for 20 years. It's not much, but it's enough to start a new life. I have a house? I couldn't believe it. And there's something else. Mark pulled a small box out of the box. Mom's jewelry, her wedding ring, necklace, earrings. She wanted you to have it all. I opened the box. Inside was a simple gold wedding ring, a pearl necklace, and small heart-shaped earrings. It was all hers? All of it. She was very fond of that necklace. Michael gave it to her on our anniversary. I took the necklace and put it on. It fit perfectly. Uncle Mark, why did Deborah do this? Why did she take me if she didn't love me? Mark sighed heavily. Money, of course. But I think she was planning to love you first. It just didn't work out. And when Jason came along, she didn't need you anymore. But she still needed the money. Why didn't you fight for me? I did. We went to court for 3 years. But I was single, working at a construction site, often traveling on business trips. And they had a full-fledged family, a stable job, a nice house. The court ruled in their favor. But you didn't give up. Never. I promised Sarah I would take care of you. I may not have been able to take you away, but I was always there for you. In the evening, we sat in the kitchen, and Susan showed me more pictures. She told me stories about my mom, how she dreamed of becoming a teacher, how she met my dad at a dance at school, how happy she was when she found out she was pregnant. She wanted a daughter so badly, Susan laughed. From the first day after the birth, she planned your future. She said that you would become a strong, independent woman. It didn't work out so well, I said sadly. Why? Susan was surprised. Look at you. You've been working since you were 16, saving money for your education, and you didn't give up even when you found out about the theft. You filed a police report, even though this is your family. Caitlin, you are exactly what your mom wanted you to be. Late at night, I called Hannah to tell her everything. Oh my God, Kate, she gasped into the phone. It's like a movie, only real. So what now? Are you staying with your uncle? I think so, at least for now. Hannah, I have a house. My own house. Really? That's incredible. When I went to bed that night for the first time in years, I felt something like peace. Yes, it was painful to learn the truth. Yes, I had lost 20 years of my life with people who did not love me. But now I knew who I really was. I was Caitlin Sarah Barton, the daughter of Sarah and Michael, who loved me more than anything in the world. I was the niece of Mark, who never gave up. And now, finally, I was home. Officer Johnson called a week later. Caitlin, we've completed our review of your bank accounts. There is probable cause to open a criminal investigation. I sat in Mark's kitchen with a cup of coffee, trying to get used to the new routine. The last week had been a whirlwind of emotions and discoveries. Your mother did indeed withdraw $2,000 from your account without your consent. Bank records show that she hadn't made any deposits to the account for 2 years and then withdrew the entire amount in one lump sum. She also used the money for her own needs, paying off credit cards, buying clothes. What's next? Next, we need to talk to her officially. But first, I want to warn you that she may try to contact you. She will try to convince you to withdraw the application. He was right. That evening, the phone rang. Caitlin, Deborah's voice sounded reserved, but I could hear the barely controlled anger behind it. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. There is. The police came to my house today. Caitlin, how could you? I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. How could I what? File a report for stealing my own money? I'm your mother. I had the right to— You're not my mother, I interrupted her, and you know it. There was silence. Who told you? Deborah finally whispered. It doesn't matter. What matters is that now I know the truth. Caitlin, listen to me. You don't understand the situation. I saved you. I gave you a home, a family. You gave me hell. 20 years of abuse and humiliation. Abuse? Deborah's voice was shrill. I fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head. With my own money, with my dead parents' money. That money went to your upkeep, every cent. You're lying, and we both know it. Deborah changed her tactics. Her voice was softer, almost pleading. Caitlin, darling, I know things haven't been easy between us, but you're my daughter. Regardless of your blood, I raised you. Come home and we'll talk about it. No. Caitlin. I said no, and withdraw the police report before it's too late. I won't withdraw the report, but now listen to me carefully. My voice was firm. Tomorrow my lawyer will sue for the return of all the inheritance you've embezzled, all my parents' money that you spent on yourself. You don't have a lawyer. I do, and the documents that prove your theft. Deborah changed her tone again. It was now threatening. Caitlin, don't do anything stupid. You don't know who you're messing with. I can sue you for defamation, for attempted blackmail. Try it, I said calmly. I have witnesses to your slap at the wedding. 55 witnesses. I hung up and turned off the phone. The next day, Mark went with me to see a lawyer. David Collins had been a friend of Mark's since high school, now specializing in family law. It's a complicated case, he said as he looked over the documents, but it's a promising one. If we can prove that the money was spent not on your support, but on the personal needs of your guardians. We can, Mark said. I have photos of their house, cars, and expenses for Aunt Melissa's wedding. Wedding? The lawyer was surprised. Deborah spent $10,000 on her sister's wedding, a month before she took the last of Caitlin's money. Collins smiled. That's interesting. We'll file a lawsuit. That evening they showed up, all three of them, Deborah, Ray, and Jason. Susan opened the door and called me in. Caitlin! Deborah tried to come in, but Mark blocked her way. What do you want? We need to talk to our daughter. She's not your daughter, Mark said calmly, and she's a minor. If you want to talk to her, you can do it here, in front of witnesses. I went out on the porch. Deborah looked terrible, tousled hair, red eyes, rumpled clothes. Ray stood behind me, frowning at me. Jason looked annoyed. Caitlin, stop this nonsense, Ray said. Come home and we'll forget about this. I am home, I said. Your home is where we raised you, Deborah screamed. For 20 years we fed you, clothed you, put up with your antics. Put up with? I laughed. You hated me. We loved you. Deborah was crying now. As if you were our own daughter. Don't lie. You never loved me. You loved the money you got out of me. Jason stepped forward. Kate, you've always been dramatic. Remember how you used to make up stories when you were a kid about being hurt? This is the same thing. The same thing? I looked at my brother, trying to understand how he could say that. Jason, you saw how Mom hit me at the wedding. You applauded. You deserved it, he shrugged. You made a scene in public. I deserved it? You've always been a problem, Kate. Always making things up, always complaining. Mom and Dad did everything they could for you, and you— I interrupted him. Everything they could? Jason, when you were 18, your parents bought you a car. When I turned 18, I started working to pay for my driver's license. The situation was different. Yes, it was. I had money for a car, money from my real parents. But Deborah stole it. Ray interjected, "Caitlin, that's enough. Come home and we'll forget everything. Mom is even ready to apologize." Apologize? I couldn't believe it. For 20 years of abuse? For the stolen money? For hiding the truth about my parents from me? "We wanted to protect you," Deborah whispered. "From what? From love?" Mark put his hand on my shoulder. "I think that's enough. You," Deborah turned to him, "you did this to her. You were always trying to turn her against us." "I was trying to protect her. I wish I'd done it sooner." Protect her? From her own family? From the people who used her? Deborah rushed to me, trying to grab my arm. "Caitlin, please, you don't understand. Without us, you would have been in an orphanage. I saved you." I pulled her hand away. "You stole me from Uncle Mark, stole my real life, stole my identity." "Identity? What identity? You were a 2-year-old child, a child who had the right to grow up with people who loved her." Jason shook his head. "Kate, you're going too far. This is all a fantasy." "Fantasy?" I pulled out my phone and showed them the photo I had taken this morning. "It turns out that you even changed my birthday." Deborah turned pale. "Where did you get this?" "Where it's always been. From the people who really love me." Ray took a step forward, and I saw something threatening in his eyes. "Caitlin, you're making a big mistake. If you go down this road, there's no turning back." "Okay," I said calmly. "I don't want to go back." "Then don't expect us to help you when it all falls apart. I have a real family." They left, but Deborah turned around on the doorstep. "You're going to regret this, Caitlin. The world is cruel, and you're not ready for it." "But I'm ready for the truth," I replied. The following weeks were spent in paperwork, recovering my real birth certificate, changing my last name back to Barton, filing lawsuits. Every day brought new evidence of how much had been hidden from me. "Look here," Collins showed me the bank records. "Monthly payments from the state went to Deborah's account until you turned 18. $1,200 a month. In 18 years, that's almost $260,000. And where's the money? Spent. On a house, cars, clothes, entertainment. On everything but you. Meanwhile, I needed a job. Mark offered to help me at his auto parts store. Do you know anything about cars?" "Not really, but I can learn." "Then you'll start with the cash register and record keeping. Susan says you're good with numbers." Mark's Auto Parts was a small but cozy shop. 2 rows of shelves with spare parts, a rack of motor oils, and a small cash register. The customers were mostly local mechanics and car enthusiasts. On the first day, Mark introduced me to the basics. These are spark plugs. These are air filters. These are brake pads. You don't have to memorize everything at once. There is a catalog. On the 3rd day of work, a young man of about 25 came in. He was tall, dark-haired, and wore a work coverall with the name Ethan embroidered on it. "Hi," he smiled. "Are you new?" "Caitlin, Ethan, I work at the auto repair shop across the street." He looked around. "Where's Mark?" "In the warehouse. I'll be right back." No, no, no. I need brake pads for a 2018 Ford Fusion." I looked in the catalog and found the right item. "We have it. $120. "Great." He took out the money. "Are you related to Mark?" "Niece. I haven't seen you around town before. I just moved here." Ethan took the purchase, but he was in no hurry to leave. "I hope you're enjoying the town." "So far, so good. If you have any questions about the local places, cafes, movie theater, ask me. I grew up here." When he left, I felt something unusual. For the first time in a long time, someone looked at me as a normal girl, not as a problem to be tolerated. "Who was it?" Mark asked, coming back from the warehouse. "Ethan from the car repair shop. He was buying brake pads." "Oh, Ethan Miller. He's a good guy. He's an honest mechanic, which is rare." Mark smiled. "Seems, or is." "Uncle Mark." "What? You're young, free. For the first time in your life, you can choose who you communicate with." In the evening, on my way home, I thought about these words. For the first time in my life, I could really choose. I didn't have to endure bullying, justify my existence, or be afraid to express my opinion. For the first time in my life, I was free, and it was both scary and wonderful. A year and a half is not such a long time, but for me it was a whole era. I was sitting in my company car outside an ordinary private house on Maple Street, checking the address on my tablet. An anonymous complaint about child abuse. a 9-year-old girl who comes to school with bruises and dirty clothes. My work in the Child Protection Service began by accident. A year ago, when the court finally ruled in my favor and Deborah had to return some of the misappropriated funds, I decided to go to school. Not to college, as I had originally planned, but to take a course in social work. I wanted to understand how the system that had failed me worked. It turned out that the system is imperfect, but people in it are trying to do the right thing. And my own experience helped me see what others might have missed. I knocked on the door of the house. A woman of about 35, wearing a bathrobe and holding a cigarette, answered the door. "What do you want?" "Good afternoon. I'm Caitlin Barton from the Child Protection Service. Can we talk?" The woman's face hardened. "We're fine. Can we come in? It's just a routine inspection." It was dirty and smoky inside. A little girl was sleeping on the couch, skinny and wearing stained pajamas. I noticed a fresh bruise on her arm. "Is that your daughter?" "Emma. She's sick, so she's home." "How did she get that bruise?" "She fell off her bike." I sat down by the couch. The girl woke up and looked at me with big, worried eyes. "Hi, Emma. How are you? How are you?" "I'm fine," she whispered, but her eyes said otherwise. I spent another hour in that house, talking to the child and the mother, taking pictures of the living conditions, and writing up a report. By the evening, Emma was in a safe place, and her mother had received an official warning and a referral to parenting classes. "How was your day?" Ethan asked when I got home. "Yes, home." A year ago, I moved into a small house that my real parents left me. Mark had helped with the renovations, and now it was a cozy place with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a small garden. Ethan often came to visit. Our relationship developed slowly, without haste or drama. He knew my story. I told him everything after 6 months of knowing him, and he never tried to save me or prove anything. "It's hard," I answered, taking off my work jacket. "I took a child from a dysfunctional family. I made tea and sat down on the couch next to him. Something about this girl reminded me of myself. The same look in her eyes, as if she was constantly apologizing for her existence." Ethan took my hand. "It's good to have someone standing up for her now." "I hope so." We sat in silence, watching the evening news. It was our habit not to fill the silence with unnecessary words. I needed time to learn to trust, and Ethan understood that. The phone rang at 9 in the evening. The number was unfamiliar. "Caitlin?" A familiar voice made me freeze. "It's Deborah." I looked at Ethan, who raised his eyebrows. She had called 3 times in the past year and a half. "What do you want?" "We need to talk. Can we meet?" "No, talk on the phone or nothing." "Caitlin, I'm in trouble. I'm in serious financial trouble. The bank wants to take the house." I sighed. Deborah was supposed to pay me $80,000 in compensation after the court ruling. She didn't have the money, so she gave her house as collateral. Obviously, now she couldn't pay off her debts. "That's not my problem." "You're my daughter. I raised you for 20 years. You used me for 20 years with my own money." "Caitlin, please. I need $30,000 to save the house. I'll pay you back, I promise." "I don't have $30,000, and even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you. You're not the person I raised you to be." "That's right. I'm not what you wanted me to be, weak and submissive. Deborah, don't call me anymore." I hung up and turned off the phone. "Is she asking for money again?" Ethan asked. "Yes, she lost the house. Aren't you sorry?" I thought about it. Sorry? Maybe a little, but it was more like feeling sorry for a stranger who had made a bad choice, not for my mother. "No, she made her choice many years ago. Now she lives with the consequences." Ethan nodded, not trying to convince me to be kinder or more generous. That was another reason why I loved him. He didn't try to change me. A month later, we had a meeting that I did not expect. I was shopping at the supermarket when I saw a familiar figure near the dairy section. Jason looked older than his 27 years. His hair was thinning and wrinkles appeared around his eyes. He noticed me too and hesitated, as if he was thinking about whether to approach me. We stood by the yogurt shelves, 2 people who once lived in the same house and considered themselves brother and sister. "How are you?" he asked. "Good. And you?" He fell silent, then added, "Mom told me about the call. She said you didn't want to help." She was right. "Kate, I know things are complicated between you two, but—" "Jason," I interrupted, "it's not complicated. It's closed. For good." He nodded as if he had expected that answer. I want to tell you I'm sorry for everything, for the way I behaved at the wedding, for not standing up for you earlier. I'm sorry. A year and a half later, I looked at him and tried to feel something. Anger, relief, forgiveness. Thank you, I said, but it doesn't change anything. I just wanted you to know that I realize I was wrong. Jason, there's one thing you can do for me. What? Don't ever contact me again. Don't call, don't write, don't approach me on the street. We're strangers now, and it's better for both of us. He nodded, and I saw pain in his eyes. I didn't feel sorry for him. He made his choice years ago when he applauded my humiliation. Take care, Kate. You too. He left, and I never saw him again. Today, 2 years after that fateful night with the 3 calls, I am sitting in my office reading a case file about a 12-year-old boy who has been living with his grandmother since his parents died. The family seems to be doing well, but something in the report makes me uneasy. My phone rings, and Ethan's name appears on the screen. Hi, beautiful. How are things at work? I'm reading another case. I think I'll have to go for an on-site inspection tomorrow. Is it a difficult case? It's not clear yet, but I have a feeling that something is wrong. Trust your gut. They rarely fail. It's true. In the 2 years I've been working, I've learned to trust my intuition. It told me when a child was lying out of fear, when adults were hiding the truth, when hell was hiding behind the facade of a happy family. Ethan, I want to ask you something. Yes, I'm listening. Do you ever regret contacting me? With all my problems, my history? Kate, your story has made you who you are, a strong, compassionate, just woman. Why should I be sorry for that? Sometimes I'm closed off. I don't always trust. And sometimes I forget to take out the trash. We are all imperfect. I laughed. It was easy with Ethan. He didn't try to fix me or change me. He just loved me for who I was. I'll make dinner tonight, I said. Great, I'll bring the wine. See you, beautiful. I put the phone down and looked at the case again. 12-year-old Michael Stone, who lives with his grandmother after a car accident. Officially, everything looks normal, but the teachers complain about a sharp change in the boy's behavior. Tomorrow, I will go to their home. I will look into the boy's eyes and see if he needs help. Perhaps I will save another child's life from what I had to go through. Not all stories have a happy ending. My story does not have a classic happy ending. I did not reconcile with my family, did not receive an apology, did not restore the destroyed relationship. But it has something better: authenticity. I know who I am. I know what I am worth. I know that I deserve love and respect. And most importantly, I use my pain to help others. Every child I protect, every family I help heal, every life I manage to save is my response to years of abuse and humiliation. Deborah wanted to make me a victim, but I became a defender. It was 6 p.m. when I packed my things and left the office. Michael Stone's case was on my mind. Something in the school psychologist's report reminded me of my own experiences. I arrived home feeling uneasy. Ethan was already there, preparing dinner. How are you? He asked, hugging me. It's complicated. Tomorrow I'm going to see a 12-year-old boy. I suspect emotional abuse. During dinner, I told him about the case. The boy has changed. He has become withdrawn, aggressive. The accident with his parents happened 3 years ago, and the problems started now. Maybe something has changed in his life with his grandmother. The next morning, I went to the house where Michael Stone lived. It was an old 2-story house on the outskirts of town, with a well-kept garden and fresh paint on the fence. The door was opened by a woman in her 60s, short, fat, and with gray hair in a bun. Ms. Stone, I'm Caitlin Barton from Child Protective Services. The woman's face hardened. What do you want? We're fine. It's just a routine check. Michael's school has reported a change in his behavior. Michael's a good boy. He's just having a hard time. Can I talk to him? Grandma was reluctant to let me into the house. It was clean but cold inside, not physically, but emotionally. There were no children's drawings on the fridge, no toys in the living room, no signs that a child lived here. Michael, Mrs. Stone called. Come here. A thin boy with dark hair and big brown eyes appeared, eyes in which I recognized myself. Alert, fearful, ready for pain. I'm Caitlin. Can we talk? The boy looked back at his grandmother as if asking for permission. Go ahead, she said, but tell me the truth. I asked for permission to talk to Michael alone, and after some hesitation, his grandmother agreed. Michael, how are things at school? I asked when we were alone. Fine. The teachers say you've changed. Is it harder to study? The boy shrugged his shoulders. I could see him tense up, preparing to lie or remain silent. You know, I said softly, when I was your age, I used to say normal when people asked me about my life, even when things were not normal at all. Michael looked up and looked at me more closely. Why? Because I was afraid. I was afraid that if I told the truth, it would get even worse. And did it? No. When I finally told the truth, it got better. Not immediately, but better. Michael was silent for a long time, then asked quietly, "What if the truth did scare Grandma?" There it was. The child protects the adult who is supposed to protect him. Michael, adults are supposed to take care of children, not the other way around. If someone tells you that you are responsible for adults' feelings, it's not true. But Grandma says that if I'm bad, she'll have a heart attack like Grandpa. I felt a familiar pain in my chest. Emotional blackmail, a classic trick of manipulative adults. Michael, Grandpa's illness is not your fault, and Grandma's health does not depend on your behavior either. The boy cried, quietly, almost silently, like children who have learned to hide their emotions. I talked to Michael and his grandmother for another hour. There was no physical violence, but there was plenty of emotional abuse. Constant threats, manipulations, guilt over his grandfather's death, unhealthy expectations. By the evening, I was already drawing up a plan to help the family. "How was your day?" Ethan asked me when I came to Mark and Susan's barbecue. It was hard but effective. Another child was saved from something that was destroying him from the inside. "Tell me about it," Susan asked, handing me a glass of lemonade. I told them about Michael, about his grandmother, about the plan to help him. "You're doing important work," Mark said. "You know," I said, looking at these people who had become my real family, "I used to think that my life was ruined because of Deborah, that I had lost my childhood, my youth, my opportunities." "And now?" Susan asked. "I realize that my life is not ruined. It's different. It is harder, but it is full of meaning. Every child I help proves that my pain was not in vain. And this is the best revenge of all," he said, repeating what I had said last year. I laughed. "Not revenge. It's a transformation. I turned pain into strength, trauma into wisdom, victim into protector." As we drove home that night, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw the lights of Mark and Susan's house, people who loved me unconditionally. Sitting next to me was Ethan, a man who accepted me for who I was. The future was ahead of me, unknown but full of possibilities. Perhaps children with Ethan, maybe new challenges in my work, maybe many more children who would need my help. One thing I knew for sure was that I would never let anyone humiliate me or use me again. I learned to say no. I learned to set boundaries. I learned to love myself. And this, perhaps, is true happiness. Not the absence of problems, but the ability to cope with them. Not the absence of pain, but the ability to transform it. Deborah wanted to make me a victim, but I became a defender. And this is the best revenge of all.